Two men were traveling together to a distant city. Each had packed food for the journey, which would take several days. They agreed to eat one man's provisions first and then use the others, expecting this to be enough for their trip. However, when they finished the first man's food, the second man refused to share his, breaking their agreement. "Please," the first man begged, "give me something to eat. If you won't honor our agreement, at least give it as charity. I'll starve to death out here and my family will be left destitute. Have mercy." But the second man was unmoved. "No," he replied coldly. "I won't give you anything. The food might not be enough for both of us. I'll eat my own food and go on. I don't care what happens to you." The man with food walked ahead, leaving his starving companion behind. The hungry man struggled on, putting dirt in his mouth and drinking from every stream he found. As the sun set, he came across an old, abandoned mill. "I'll spend the night here," he thought. "God is merciful." The mill was empty, except for an old tambourine hanging on the wall. Fearing wild animals, the man climbed into the grain storage area to sleep. At midnight, the man saw a bear enter the mill and sit opposite the grain holder. Soon after, a wolf arrived and sat near the bear, followed by a fox who took a seat next to the wolf. The wolf turned to the bear and asked, "How's it going, Brother Bear? How do you manage to fill that big belly of yours when game is so scarce these days?" The bear replied confidently, "I never worry about food shortages. There are plenty of plants around with delicious roots. When I'm hungry, I just dig some up and satisfy my appetite." The hungry man, still hidden, thought to himself, "That's good to know." Then the fox addressed the wolf, "And what about you, Brother Wolf? Do you ever manage to satisfy that greedy appetite of yours, now that every shepherd has one of those cursed dogs?" The wolf sighed deeply. "Don't even mention it," he grumbled. "For the past few months I've been trying to snatch a bite from the mayor of Greendale's flocks, but I can never get close because of that big black dog. It never leaves the sheep alone. I don't understand why the doctors don't kill that cursed dog and use its blood to bathe the king's son. It would cure the prince's long-standing illness that stumped all the doctors. The poor lad would be healed and my obstacle would be gone." The hidden man thought to himself, "Interesting." Finally, the bear turned to the fox. "And how about you, Brother Fox? How are you getting by?" The fox replied smugly, "Well, thank goodness. Although I'm not as strong as you two, heaven has blessed me with wisdom and skill. I've never had trouble with hunger. In fact, I've even accumulated some wealth. I've got a jug full of gold hidden under that sycamore tree over there, and another under the threshold of this mill. Once a day I take out the gold pieces and amuse myself by playing with them. Then I put them back in the jugs and hide them again." The hidden man thought to himself, "Very interesting indeed." Feeling emboldened by what he had heard, the man's mind began to race. Suddenly he grabbed the tambourine and started playing it loudly. Hearing this unexpected noise, the animals fled in panic, disappearing in the blink of an eye. They thought a wedding procession was approaching, which terrified them. By this time, dawn was breaking. The man emerged from his hiding place and quickly found the 2 jugs full of gold. He filled his pockets and hid the rest in another location. Then, remembering the bear's advice, he dug up some roots to satisfy his hunger. After eating, he asked for directions to Greendale and made his way to the mayor's house. He presented costly gifts to the mayor and his family, which greatly pleased them. The next morning, he overheard the mayor whispering with his family about what they could give their guest in return for his generosity. The man spoke up. "I've been admiring your black dog that guards the flock. I'd love to have one like it." The mayor replied, "If that's what you desire, you can have it. We can easily find another dog for the flock." The man put a rope around the dog's neck and, taking a leather bottle with him, went to a secluded spot. There, he killed the dog and collected its blood in the bottle. With this grim cargo, he headed to the capital city and presented himself to the king. "Your Majesty," he announced, "I am a doctor, and I can cure your son." The king regarded him skeptically. "If you can heal my son," he said, "I'll guarantee you the second highest position in the kingdom after my death. But if you fail, I'll have your head cut off." "May your son live to enjoy your throne," the man replied confidently. "If I don't heal him, my head is yours." The king agreed, and the man took the sickly prince, who was on his deathbed, to a private room. There he applied the dog's blood all over the prince's body and let him sleep. By evening the young man was sweating profusely. The self-proclaimed doctor washed him and reapplied the dog's blood. He continued this treatment for 2 days. On the 3rd day, the prince was cured, his body as healthy as a newborn's. The man presented the healed prince to the king, who was overjoyed. As a reward, the king gifted the doctor a magnificent palace and great wealth. Soon not just the court but the entire country loved the man for his seemingly generous spirit. The man retrieved the rest of the fox's hidden treasure and sent for his family to join him in his new palace. They lived happily, grateful for their good fortune. Meanwhile, what became of his selfish travelling companion, who had refused to share his bread? He reached his destination safely, but never found success there. He was forced to wander from city to city looking for work just to survive. Eventually, he arrived in the city where his former companion now lived as a prince. Seeing his old friend's luxurious lifestyle, he asked how he had achieved such success. His former companion told him everything that had happened. Excited by the prospect of similar good fortune, the selfish man rushed to the old mill and hid in the grain holder, just as his friend had done. Once again the animals gathered for their meeting. "Mr. Chairman," the fox said to the bear as they entered, "before we start our discussion we should check if there's a human nearby who might overhear us. I've been robbed since our last meeting." They all got up to investigate, and soon discovered the man in the grain holder. "Vile intruder," the fox snarled, biting the man's legs furiously. The bear delivered some powerful blows to his head with his heavy paws, knocking him unconscious. Finally, the wolf tore him to pieces. And so ended the life of the selfish man, a victim of his own greed and the animal's vengeance.